Make it loud for Peter Q.
What do you call a guy who can make a business suit real fast? Taylor Swift. Yeah, it's weird how language changes over time, right? Like nowadays, if a guy came up to me and told me he was gonna blow my brains out, I wouldn't know whether to run away or pull my pants down. Yeah, my name's Peter Chu. It's a Korean name, you know. But I was born and raised here in America. Yeah, I'm actually a U.S. Army veteran. That's pretty cool being in the Army, thank you. It's kind of weird being the only Asian person, though. And every day, people just be looking at me like, are we supposed to shoot this guy? I remember that thing going around the internet a couple years ago, like, if you're a woman and you're alone in the woods, would you rather run into a bear or a strange man? And a lot of ladies chose the bear, right? I think that was just ignorance of bear knowledge. Because I ran into a bear alone in the woods once. Man, it fucked the shit out of me. Yeah, you know, last year scientists reported for the first time 2 male humpback whales having sex. Yeah, Warner Brothers is already going to make a movie about them. Yeah, the title of the movie is going to be called Humpback Mountain. Yeah, you know, whenever I'm having sex, like, I never last as long as I'd like to, you know? I'm always like, come on, penis, hang in there, man. It's always like, now screw this. I've had sex with all different types of women, like white, black, Asian, Hispanic. You know, in my opinion, Asian women give the best blowjobs. Yeah? If any of you ladies like to prove me wrong, you can meet me in the bathroom after I'm done with my sex. So, you know, the national dog of Korea is called a Chindoke. It looks kind of like a Siberian Husky, you know, but it's like a golden blonde color, and it tastes like ham. Yeah, I did my 23andMe a couple years back, but the results were kind of confusing. They just sent me back a pair of chopsticks. You know, a lot of important things were invented in China, right? Like paper, gunpowder, the compass. One thing definitely not invented in China, though, driving. And you know what we call people that are mixed black and Asian? We call them Blasians, right? And people that are mixed Mexican and Asian, well, we could even call them Mexicans or Masians. You know what we call a guy who's mixed white and Asian? Asshole. Yeah, I think Shaquille O'Neal's like the happiest man on earth. You know, he's like, oh, he's so jolly, and like everyone just loves him, right? And I think he's always so happy because he's never been bullied before. I mean, how are you gonna punk some guy who's so tall that his crotch is in your face? It's like, what's up, Shaquille? Give me your fucking lunch money. Never mind. I was talking to this one dude who told me he was Persian. I was like, you're Persian? From Persia? I was like, yeah, where were you from? I was like, the Han Dynasty, I guess. Yeah, one of my buddies told me that if you scratch your head a lot, that's what makes you go bald. I don't know about that, because my balls are still hairy as hell. Yeah, I'm Korean, you know, we celebrate Thanksgiving like everyone else. But we celebrate it like with our dead relatives, kind of, also. Like, what we'll do is, like, we'll set up a special place for them, right, with special, at a special table. And we'll put their pictures there, right? For my family, it's my grandparents and then my aunt that passed away, right? And throughout the meal, we get like a bite of food from their plates, you know, we'll put it in a special bowl. And liquor too, right? We have these shots of soju in front of their picture, and then we'll like swish it over this incense and we'll pour in the bowl, you know? Kind of like to symbolize if they're there with us eating and drinking. And then we also get like their favorite food, right? Like my grandmother, she liked to eat this certain type of fish, this red snapper, so we always had that in front of the picture. And then my aunt, she liked this pork belly. It's kind of like these thick slabs of smoked bacon. Yeah. And we have that in front of the picture there. Now for my grandfather, what we'll do is put a picture of my grandmother under his like this, because his favorite thing to eat was, yeah, you could probably guessed it, my grandmother's pussy. Now here's some newer jokes. What do you call the invisible mother of a trans woman? Transparent. How would a trans person board a ship? Like transport. What do you call a trans person in extra small vest? Transvestite. And what do you call a spider with sex change? Tarantula. Yeah, you know, I like to call my wife, you know, I always like to call her my better half. Because she better have dinner when we get home. That's a new one. Yeah, I'm not married anymore, whatever. But that's good riddance. She was horrible. Like, my ex-wife, she couldn't cook or clean or anything. Like, I put her in charge of my family's business, and she ran that business just like a carrot, straight into the ground. Yeah, the only good thing about my ex-wife, I'd have to say, was the sex. Yeah, she really put out. So my neighbor keeps telling me. When the Romans, right, they adopted the Greek gods, but then they gave them like wildly different names, right? Like Ares turned into Mars, right? Poseidon was changed to Neptune, and some asshole became Uranus. Yeah, when naming the planet Uranus, back in the day, all the scientists, they had this huge discussion about it, and they weren't sure whether to call it Uranus or your butthole. Oh yeah, you ever been to a Korean barbecue restaurant?
Yes.
It's kind of unique in that you pay to cook your own meat, right? And if you pay a little extra, you can wash your own dishes and take out the trash. Yeah, they say California is now #1 in road rage in the whole country. Yeah, finally all my hard work's paying off. And they say Disneyland is like the happiest place on earth. But that's just if you're a little kid, right? Like, if you're a grown man, I'd say the happiest place on earth is South Figueroa Street. Yeah, I was over at Mount Baldy this past weekend. But I heard it wasn't always called Mount Baldy, though, Back when it was a lot younger and more hopeful, it was known as Mount Rogaine. And whenever a guy brags about how big his dick is, it's usually the opposite, right? It's usually really small. I was talking to a dude the other day, and he was like, "Oh yeah, man, my dick's so big, I'm hung like a horse." And I was like, "Yeah, like a seahorse." Yeah, my dog, she's so cute, When other dogs see her, they go, "Oh my gosh, that dog is so cute." And then they go, "Oh my gosh, I can talk." April 14th is now a new national holiday. It's now National Burrito Day. Yeah. And the very next day, April 15th, is now National Toilet Clogging Day. And jerking off is whatever, it sucks, right? It's like lame. And it's not even very satisfying, It's like eating crackers and shit. Yeah, come in. Oh. Yeah, whereas like, whatever. Yeah, it's like eating crackers, Whereas having sex with someone else is totally satisfying. Yeah, jerking off is like eating crackers, and having sex with someone else is like hunting a deer and then cooking it and then fucking it. The NFL is one Asian player, and he's a kicker. Like, should you not find a more racist position for this guy? And what are you gonna have him go up barefoot in a karate uniform? All right, let me tell you a story. Chew up some time. I'll tell you about the time I met The Rock, right? Yeah. I was at the DMV, right? Just right over here. And with my buddy, we're getting our licenses renewed. And we were waiting in line, and he's like, "Hey, you see that guy over there?" And I look, and then there's a guy like in the middle talking to one of the supervisors. And I'm like, "Yeah?" He's like, "I think it's The Rock, right?" And I look, and I'm like, "I don't think so, right?" Because he looked kind of slim. But then he smiles, right? So I'm like, "You know what? Maybe, And then I look around the room, and all these people are like, they're all like looking at him and pointing at him, And then you could feel this like excitement, like building, like literally every second, building. And at some point, this girl screams, "It's The Rock!" Right? And everyone's like, "Oh shit!" Anyway, when I go to get my picture taken, he cuts the line, right? He cuts right in front of me, right? So he's standing right in front of me, just looking at me, And at that point, I could ask for an autograph or picture, anything. But I was just like so starstruck, I was just staring at him, just like, the only thought in my head was, "That's The Rock. That's The Rock. That's The Rock." And he just kind of looked at me like, "Whatever." And he went and got his picture taken. And as he was leaving, all these people were like running up to him and getting autographs and stuff. And I'm watching him, I'm like, "Man, he's so cool, Like, you could tell he was just so happy that people were being nice to him and shit. And so I was like, "Man, if I ever meet The Rock ever again, I'm gonna go right up to him and go, 'Cause it's The Rock, I can't help myself." You ever seen a couple months ago, I was sitting here, whatever, and there was this dude sitting right there giving me the Jada Pinkett face. You ever seen the Jada Pinkett face? When they're staring at you like, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Don't be sitting there giving me no Jada Pinkett face. You better knock that shit off before I use a Will Smith hand. Yeah, you know, oh, what's his name? Yeah, whatever. All right, there's this dude, right? He gets hired aboard this ship. And they're out at sea for about 6 months, right? And so he's starting to get horny, right? So he's talking to his friend. He's like, hey, man, we're going to go back to port. You know, I'm getting horny out here. And he's like, oh, no, we're not going back to port for another 6 months. And he's like, what? You know, I can't wait that long. He's like, well, have you tried the barrel? He's like, no, what's that? So he shows him to this room, and there's a barrel in the room, right? There's a hole in the barrel. He's like, well, there you go, right? So the dude starts fucking the barrel, and it works. It works really well, right? So later he's talking to his buddy, like, oh yeah, man, that barrel was fucking awesome. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna use it every day. And the guy's like, well, every day but Sunday, right? He's like, oh, you can't use it on Sunday? He's like, well, you can, but Sunday's your day in the barrel, so. All right, let's try this. Yeah, you know, I grew up Christian, right? And it's weird how Christianity is kind of like a verb now, right? Because I am Christian, but I'm not Christian. Yeah, if anything, it's more like, I'm Christian. Why should you bring a basket of apples to math class? Because God wants you to be fruitful and multiply. I think I know how Jesus got 12 grown men to follow him. You know, he was probably like, hey, you guys want to give up everything in your life and come follow me? No. I can turn water into wine. Let's go. Yeah, you know, a lot of black Christians will like to tell you that Jesus was black, but really we just don't know, right? What we do know was that like Mary was like a Palestinian Jew, and so whatever Jesus was, he was half what Mary was and half what God came down as, right? So he could have been half black, and he could have been half white. Hell, Jesus could have been half Asian. Well, I think we can all agree that he wasn't half Asian though, because he never had any money. Yeah, you know, I learned in the Bible that we're supposed to love our neighbors like we love ourselves. So I went next door and I jerked them off. Yeah, you know, it's hard being whatever. Why did Alexander the Great cut the legs off his enemies? To defeat them. Why do sailors get the best blowjobs? Because the captain always goes down with the ship. And you know the word dude? It's like the hardest working word in the English language, right? With one word, you could say so much. You could say like, look at that over there, like, dude! Or you could say, hey man, are you okay? Dude? Or with that one word, you could say, hey, your dick is way too big. Dude! Yeah, I've been having these gay dreams lately. It's always the same dream. It's like me and this other dude, we're playing pickleball. Oh, it's so gay. Yeah. Here's another whatever. You know, I was watching this documentary about Jupiter, and it turns out if anything happens to Jupiter, we're fucking screwed, right? They were saying in the documentary that one day Jupiter will move closer to the sun, and when that happens, it'll either shoot us out into space, or we'll collide with another planet, or we'll be thrown into the fucking sun, right? So I'm watching this, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how is this helping my life at all, you know? Like, it's not, right? I can't affect the path of Jupiter, you know? All this is doing is just shorten my life and shit. It's just another gray hair on my ass and shit. And now I told you guys this, now you have to worry about it too. What, this? What, the health of your prostate, your, you know, and your colon? Oh, don't forget Uranus. Yeah, another Uranus joke. Alright. I should be more than this. Yeah, you know the guy who named the sperm whales. He wrote a whole book about them, but nobody could read it because all the pages stuck together. I don't know what this last joke. You know, comedians always tell you two things, right? They always tell you when they just get booked on a show, and they always tell you when they just had sex. That's a bit juvenile, don't you think? Like myself, I haven't been booked on a show in months. But I did get laid last week, so whoa. Yeah. My name's Peter Chu. I'm out here thinking. Yeah.